Isn't it kind of funny how Marc Bergevin pretty much turned what was Alex Galchenyuk into what we have now for the Canadiens in Josh Anderson? In fact, it's really funny how last year the biggest problem with the Habs was that they could not score goals. Well, the two guys they got in the offseason, Josh Anderson, Tyler Toffoli, oh boy, oh my, they are helping out in that department. Tyler Toffoli, 9 goals on the year, 12 games played, and Josh Anderson with 8 goals on the year in the same 12 games. Now, obviously, you know, you've heard me talking about Tyler Toffoli over and over and over again on this channel because as a guy who also cheers for the Canucks, he is breaking my heart. But for Josh Anderson, what I wanted to do here was just go over a quick update, because I know it's only been about 20-25% of the year for some of these NHL teams, so it is kind of early. But what I wanted to go over here was the entire situation with Josh Anderson in the first place. What we're talking about here is the trade, which saw Josh Anderson get sent over to Montreal in exchange for Max Domi and a draft pick. 2 guys who were on RFA status who needed contracts, and 2 guys who were in peculiar spots with their organizations. Max Domi was a guy with the Habs that had a lot of people kind of up and running because, oh, this guy got 70 points the previous year before falling off, and now he is trade bait. Why would the Habs want to trade this guy who was at 70 points before? And then Josh Anderson was a guy who last season only had 1 goal. Yeah, so you could totally see why the fan reaction after Domi for Anderson was super skewed in the Columbus side of things because, oh my gosh, the Columbus Blue Jackets got themselves a 3rd round pick and Max Domi for a guy in Josh Anderson who only scored a goal last year. How great is that? Well, we've already spoken about it, but for Josh Anderson, my gosh, 8 goals in 12 games played, that's pretty good. In fact, every time I've seen Josh Anderson play, this guy has been nothing short of a force, taking over pucks, taking over shifts, and driving to the front of the goal. This was the kind of style that he exhibited in Columbus 2 years ago when he got 27 goals in 82 games played. Now, he was a guy who just absolutely had a nose for the net, a sniper with a big shot who knows how to drive, who knows how to shoot, and who just had a very good offensive skill set that allowed him to get those near 30 goals back in 2019. However, his injury-riddled 2019-20 prohibited him from actually doing anything, which is why he only had 1 goal in 26 games. And I know a lot of people would be quick to point out, oh, he played 26 games, why did he not produce? Only 4 points? My gosh, why would you trade for this guy if you're Bergevin? And we all kind of knew that Marc Bergevin had a very specific idea of what he thought he was trading for, which is why he signed Anderson to a 5.5 AAV contract till 2027. It's a contract that will take him until he's 33. That's a big, big, beefy deal. 34, actually. Yeah, he's turning 27 this year, my gosh. And so, even though it was seen as a huge risk at the time, to trade for a guy with Max Domi, who was a very somewhat valuable asset in my opinion, as well as a 3rd round draft pick, away for a guy who had only played a few games, actually being at full health the previous few years, and giving him that big contract. Bergevin said that he believed that this guy could be the guy that he was in 2019, and so far in the 2021 season we have seen that, for the most part, it kind of is. He's also at just under a point per game, which is very nice to see. He was never at point per game status or anything near that in other years in his career. I mean, the Lake Erie Monsters 2016 playoff run kind of saw a similar production level, but that's about it. He's doing really well, and I can't stress how good Anderson has been to this team. And I'll say this here again, too. The reason the Canadiens were even able to part away with a 3rd was because the Montreal Canadiens are just kind of in a position where they had so many prospects in general that a 3rd round pick to the Habs was not really valued the same as a 3rd round pick to other NHL teams that were lacking picks. The Habs had so many prospects already drafted that are pretty valuable, and they had so many picks acquired too, that all of a sudden a 3rd round pick as a bargaining chip for getting rid of Max Domi didn't seem like that much of a big deal. Also, the fact that Bergevin was legitimately believing in this guy contributed to that as well. And I said it back when the contract was signed, man, that big 5.5 AAV contract. If this works out, if we get the best version of Josh Anderson, akin to what he was in 2019, this could look like a very big steal if he comes out there and he starts producing at the levels that he was projectedly supposed to be able to back when he was scoring goals and goals and goals in 2019. As for Max Domi, he was a guy who, in my opinion, had a very valuable, very capable NHL productive skill set. It's just consistency issues were a problem with Domi. Also, in my opinion, the skill set that Max Domi has with this Canadiens team now is not really all that much of a fit than it was, let's say, when he was new to the team as the new guy in town, putting up those 70 points. And it's easy for me to say that, I get that, but like, my point here is the way that Domi was playing, he didn't really want to move over to wing. He wanted to stay at center, and as a result, he was fourth line in the playoffs. That's not really a guy that you want to bring around and sign to a big, beefy contract, so I get that there was an incentive to trade him, especially for Anderson, who has a very good complementary skill set on the line that he plays with Nick Suzuki and Jonathan Drouin. Very good combination there. But for Max Domi, he hasn't really had himself the best start as he would have liked to for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's been playing quite a bit with Alexandre Texier. He's a very nice French guy. I think we all kind of know who Texier is. And we also saw him play with Oliver Bjorkstrand, who is indeed leading the Blue Jackets, I think, in points. But for Max Domi right now, he's a guy who, in the 2021 NHL season, only has 1 goal and 3 assists in 12 games played. So that's not amazing. Obviously, points aren't everything. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on in hockey as well. Bjorkstrand and Texier are 1 and 2 in Blue Jackets points. But Max Domi is down there tied with a whole bunch of other guys. Jack Roslovic, who has only played 5 games. Yeah, he's been incredible so far in his limited time with the Blue Jackets. Also, Patrick Laine is coming in here. He's probably going to take over a top spot because, of course, he is. But for Domi, as a guy who is a -5 at the moment, he's going to have to work to prove that he is worth a bigger contract than $5.3 million because that does expire in 2022. You gotta remember, both Domi and Anderson were RFAs when they were traded for each other. It's just one of them ended up costing the other a third-round pick too. So, for Domi, to come out here with a contract that is pretty much just a prove-it bridge kind of deal, show us what you're really made of before we give you the big bucks out here, this is a year where he has to produce. And on a team like Columbus that just acquired Laine, it's going to be a little bit harder to do that now. So, obviously, I don't want Domi to do poorly or whatever. We hope the best for all these players, especially former Habs, right? But the way things have gotten off to right now, Anderson has been great for Montreal. Domi, on the score sheet at least, has been subpar. So there's our little update on the Domi-Anderson thing. Again, I know it's only like a quarter through the season or whatever, but still, I thought it'd be very nice to just go over briefly how these guys do. Obviously, the possibility does exist where Josh Anderson completely fizzles out. He stops being effective, he stops scoring goals, and he stops leading rushes. And Domi just completely takes over and becomes, I don't know, the best line mate that Patrick Laine ever had. And they produce 100 points together in the shortened 56-game schedule. There's a possibility that happens. Actually, no, there isn't because, yeah, Laine hasn't played all the games, right. But my point here is, even though things can change, the way things are right now indicate that Anderson for Domi was a very big win for Montreal, in the short term at least, which is why I said at the beginning, the fact that Bergevin turned Alex Galchenyuk of all things, a guy who recently re-signed as a reclamation project with the Ottawa Senators, into Josh Anderson. Oh my gosh. Bergevin, man, we doubted you this whole time, but he came out here with a plan in the 2020 offseason. He executed, and now we're seeing the benefits. So, let me know in the comments what you thought about Josh Anderson's play so far. Has he been perfect 100% of the time? Absolutely not. There are definitely times where Anderson has looked better than others, but in general, just in terms of the production, just in terms of the on-ice impact, this is a guy who can take over a shift, who can drive the wing very nicely and rush himself to the goal with speed, which is something that I've been very much looking forward to with this Canadian squad. So let me know in the comments what you think. Columbus fans, if you're in here, tell me in the comments what you have thought about Max Domi. Now, I will say I have not seen every single Blue Jackets game that had been aired this season, but I have been keeping up, have been checking in with Domi from time to time, taking a look at the highlight packages, taking a look at the overall game reviews, and it appears that he has not had the same impact with the Blue Jackets than Anderson has had with Montreal. So if that's a fair assessment, let me know in the comments below what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. So, and bye.